Some time ago, I read about this experience that a student had in one of his classes. He asked his philosophy instructor one day, what was the meaning of life? What's the purpose of life? And in response, the professor took out a small round mirror from his pocket. And he used that mirror to reflect the light that was streaming into the windows, into the dark corners of the classroom, into the faces of the students. He said, this is what I believe is the purpose and meaning of life. It is knowing that I am not the light. I am not the source of the light. True knowledge, true wisdom comes to us from God. However, I can learn to reflect that light into the dark places of this world. I can learn to reflect that light into the hearts, minds, and souls of my brothers and sisters. And then they too learn how to reflect that light until the world is ablaze with the glory of God. I share that particular story as we celebrate this fifth Sunday of our Easter journey, and we hear that proclamation of that beautiful gospel passage, that powerful imagery that Jesus poses before us today that speaks of the life force that we're offered, right? That through the love that God has for us in sending us his son, through that great choice to make that sacrificial offering so that we might know the fullness of life, Jesus gives to us that gift, right? That gift of that connection to the source of life that will enable us to experience the possibilities of a richness and fullness of life that is not possible without God. And he uses that imagery of the vine and the branches to tell about how intimate and how powerful this connection is and is meant to be for us. So the branches have their life from the vine. And Jesus goes further to say, I will remain in you and you in me through this connection. And it goes beyond that sheer imitation of who Christ is. It is that intimate union that we're offered with God, right? That ultimate intimate union that Christ is in us through the power of that merciful act of love that Jesus Christ performed for us. And it is in understanding that union that we come to open ourselves to the possibilities that God is offering us for resurrection and new life. And now, if you think about it, today's gospel is a little bit dark though, right? Because then Jesus goes on to say that the branches have to be pruned. If they're going to bear fruit in abundance, those branches need to be pruned. And my Father will prune those branches so that they can bear fruit in abundance. The Easter season is this wonderful opportunity that we are given to do a spiritual inventory about those areas of our life that might need pruning so that we can experience resurrection and new life that God is offering to us. It is that opportunity during this spiritual Easter journey to open our hearts and minds and to honestly take an inventory of what is keeping me from God and the fullness of life that he's offering. Let me offer just a few examples. Perhaps one of the things we need to be pruned of is how often in our life we live as if it's all about a transaction. I live in a transactional society, so everything I do, how I respond to those around me, is based on one thing. What am I going to get out of it, right? My relationship with anyone, my response to anyone along the way is always based on that transaction. What's in it for me? It's a rough way of living, but it is the reality of the world in which we live. Everything is about the consumer mentality. What is in it for me? And in living this way, what it comes down to is who or what do I have to do in order to get what I want? And it robs our brothers and sisters of their humanity. It robs them of their dignity. And in turn, we become entrapped into this darkness, this prison, this sin, because it is all about ourselves. And we never think beyond ourselves. Another example, and I would hazard a guess that everyone here struggles with it a little bit or maybe even a lot in our lives, and that is gossip, right? How often are we with others or talking to someone we know or even our good friends, and it comes around that we start gossiping about someone else, right? I always think that it falls under the seventh commandment, thou shalt not steal, right? We're stealing their integrity. They're stealing their dignity. And it's so easy to get caught up in this. And ultimately, it really comes down to the fact that the reason we most often gossip is because it makes us feel better about ourselves, right? So if they're this way, then I am better. And it might be something that we need to have pruned from our life so that we can experience the fullness of life. Or how about the rampant secularism, the soul-killing secularism of our society? I can find purpose and meaning in the world, right? I can find happiness and contentment by the things that I come in contact with the world. It is that loss of the transcendence in our life, that loss of the sense of the sacred in our lives. And we come to think that it is through our own power, and we lose a sense of the grace and the mercy of God that we desperately need in order to follow a path of life and truth. Easter is an amazing opportunity for us to do that searching moral inventory, to think about those areas of our life that need to be pruned in order for us to experience resurrection and new life. And then ultimately, Jesus tells us, who's going to do this for us, right? We can't do that by ourselves. We can come to some sort of awareness, but it is done for us by God our Father, right? He is the one that will prune those branches so that we can bear good fruit. God is the one that will enable that to happen for us. And so we take that then in prayer to God. We ask God to prune it, to cut that out of our lives, to take away that darkness or that sin that is imprisoning us and keeping us from the resurrection and life that He's offering. And God always will respond to that prayer, right? That's the power of the Holy Spirit. That's the whole job of the Holy Spirit in our lives, to give us that grace that we need to free us from the darkness that imprisons and the sin that enslaves. He will always provide that power and that grace for us if we but ask for it. So as we gather on this fifth Sunday of our Easter journey, we gather in the knowledge of our need for God's love and mercy, right? We gather in the reality of the true purpose and meaning of who we are as children of God, and that need for that very intimate connection that Christ offers us through His sacrifice on the cross. That if we open ourselves to the possibilities, we open ourselves to the glory of new life, and ultimately, right, to experience the fullness of life eternal with God Himself.